Hello, everybody. We are live on a Saturday afternoon to answer your questions. Um, Took the last week off from my main channel, but I didn't really take the week off. It wasn't really a vacation or anything like that. Well, actually, I'll just throw some of these up here. Uh, Bryce Bailey says, "Hey, how was your week? How's your week been?" So I took the week off from my main YouTube channel, but I was working on stuff behind the scenes. Been working on a course on YouTube stuff and some other interesting stuff like that. That just need some time to work on it. Work on my plan for the rest of the year. Monday I was just doing tax stuff, financials. So while I took the week off, some people were messaging me like, "Man, take as much time off as you need. If you need to relax." Like, no, I wasn't doing that. It wasn't really relaxing, really. It wasn't that, but when some people, was it because of the election? No, it had nothing to do with that. It was just had to get some stuff done and get ahead on a few things. So, but I'm back and got a plan for the rest of the year. Pretty excited about it. Hopefully, people will respond well. So, Gamerman, hello, Sean. Hello, Majestic Demon. Good afternoon, Mr. Chan. How is this afternoon? Excuse me. Pretty good. I was just doing exercising right before this, so if it sounds like I'm out of breath, like why is Sean out of breath 1 minute into a live stream? It's because I literally coming from exercising downstairs and went, oh, better run upstairs. Ran upstairs, fired everything up. So still a little bit short of breath. Oh, there it goes. John says, good afternoon. Good afternoon to you too. Shashank. My program is acting sluggish. Shashank, hey Sean, hope you had a great day. Mostly pretty good. Mostly eventless. Nothing much to comment on. Yeah, it's man. I'm clicked on it, moved my hand away. There, it's delayed. That's weird. The program's never done that before. Landon Peter, it's gonna throw me off. I'm gonna keep misclicking these so long as it's behaving like that. Landon, I ordered 12 Angry Men off Criterion Collection Blu-rays. Do you have any of those? I mean, I do. I do. I mean, I obviously have hundreds of Blu-rays, so I have several. But I don't like. I collect movies, but I'm like a bargain shopper. I'm much more bargain person than a like. Oh, look at this fancy set that I have. Like, I'm not that guy at all. And I'm much more quantity over quality. So like a new Friday the 13th box set came out and people were like, did you get the new box set? $150. It looks awesome. Look at these graphics. It's like, I mean, I bought all the movies for $20. That to me is the thing that I'm like, that's my thing. And I don't have good enough eyes to even care about so much about. Oh, it switched quickly that time. So I don't even have good enough eyes to care about most quality, except on Jaws 3. That's a terrible Blu-ray. Thomas Jones, hey Sean, upgraded to the $25 tier this week. Just wanted to show my appreciation. I greatly. I mean, thanks so much. It's like this year in particular. It really does make a difference. Just on the simple fact that someone would care enough to want to do something like that, it means a lot to me. Naturally, the year 2020 had a lot of setbacks in a lot of different ways for a lot of different people. And when you're a movie channel and you don't have new movies, this year's been tough. And it frequently has little sections that are draining. I'm homeschooling my kids. It hasn't been the most encouraging process for me. Yeah, I don't want to elaborate too much on that, but let's say it's not something I'm loving, and so just knowing that people actually care enough to support the channel, everyone on here, whatever you can do, I greatly appreciate it. Dayton, hey Sean, what is your favorite candy? As I say this all the time, I say this every week, every time I do a live stream. People ask me favorite questions. I don't really have favorites. I don't by default come up with a bunch of different stuff to have lists of favorites. I'm known for making numbered lists and top tens and rankings, so it's kind of assumed I do that. But that's more just the packaging for film analysis that has worked best for me. That's what it really is, more so than I just love making lists all the time. So when it comes to candy, I don't know. Like, I like variety. I really do. So, like, if the year 2020, I've tried to avoid sugar a lot more than most years. I don't know how noticeable it is, but from May until August 1st, I dropped about 15 pounds. and then cutting sugar and doing more cardio. And then since August 1st, I've put on about 17 pounds because I put sugar back in, and some of that was good, some of that weight, some of that's bad weight. And it's not like any sort of, I just have fun with my weight from time to time, change my fitness goals. So I've actually cut sugar and added it back in multiple times. We're trying to think, like, whenever I go, whenever I have a weekend where it's like, kids, let's get a bunch of candy. What does that look like at our house? I'll get some Twizzlers pull-and peels. At the Walgreens, they have the dollar candies, so we'll get some boxes of Runts. Maybe I'll get some hot tamales. What other ones will I get? Like, I know that's not even a box of Nerds, the Rainbow Nerds. And then I'll get some peanut butter cups. I'll get some M&Ms. Normally, I like the caramel ones. So there's a little taste of what I would get. Already 5 minutes behind, and we're only 8 minutes in. Or actually, I'm 5 minutes behind, and we're only about 5 minutes into this deal. Bryce Bailey, do you think you will do a favorite moments from every X-Men film in the future? It's entirely possible. It's entirely possible. I'm kind of making that one of my things that's in rotation. They haven't been doing as well as the first one I did. My Marvel one did fantastic, and then the rest of them have been more just okay. This DCEU one today is not doing very well, but just in general, YouTube's a little bit tricky these days. And I dropped the video right as presidential stuff was announced, so competing against something that was a little bit more substantial to a lot of people on this particular day. And I didn't announce it, so today's video is not doing particularly great. So, but it's certainly on my mind to kind of go through all the franchises that I do these rankings for and do those. The X-Men one, I feel like I don't know those movies as well, which is weird because I've been watching them longer than all of these other franchises. So they take a little bit more thought for me to do some of them, but it's certainly on my mind to do that. Especially, like, I don't think we're going to get Wonder Woman next month, which means, we are still probably 4 months out before blockbusters start coming out again at the closest. I'm suspecting, it's at least 3 months. I really don't think we're going to get Wonder Woman. At least 3 months. It wouldn't be surprised if we get 6 months before we really start getting blockbusters. So I don't, it means I have to, stretch out all my ideas across all the franchises. I don't know. Say that. Landon, what do you listen to at the gym working out? So if I go to the gym, well, there's three workout situations for me. Probably over 50% of the time right now, probably 60% of the time I just work out at home at my house. I've owned a set of weights for a long time, and I actually had a full weight universal bar and everything, but I gave it to my buddy Andy so that he could work out while we were in lockdown. But then I have a really nice set of, I have enough stuff that I can, work out at home, know enough body weight exercises. And that's actually one of the reasons that I decided to trim down in May, June, July, is because I couldn't do the heavy lifting to try and, do more bulk style stuff. So a lot of times I'm just at home, in which case I watch YouTube videos. A lot of times I'll watch Scott Adkins, the martial arts guy. He has an interview channel, and so I'll watch a lot of his stuff. There's a channel called Samurai Viking. I'll watch a lot of stuff, but action movie stuff is what I watch when I work at home. The other split between if I go to the gym with my buddies, if you follow me on Instagram, the guys that I go to the escape rooms with, those are my workout buddies. So Andy, Peter, Doug. So then I'm not listening if they're there. We're just talking. And then the other final section is if I go to the gym by myself, I normally listen to an audiobook. The last time I was there, last 3 times I was there, I was listening to the audiobook for Rambo 3. So there you have it. Menace Ninja, will you be playing the new Miles Morales Spider-Man game? Yes, looks like it'll be PlayStation 4. I was hoping to get a PlayStation 5. That didn't pan out. I wasn't responsible enough in trying to pre-order. So, yeah, absolutely. I'll be getting it day it comes out. And I'll probably take get ahead on my videos, take a couple days off, buy a bunch of candy, rearrange the living room, and just binge through it with my son. Here it's only about 10 hours, so it's pretty easy to crank out a review afterwards too. So absolutely, I'm planning on playing Miles Morales. Absolutely. Majestic Demon, might be too soon to judge, but do you think Spider-Verse 2 might have all the common sequel problems? I would have to know what you define as common sequel problems. Well, I mean, I think the most common sequel problem is that you just follow the exact template of the first film. Do I think it's going to do that? No, I don't think you can. beyond that, the creative team behind it are very smart people. So I don't think that they're going to mess up Spider-Verse 2 in that regards. Maybe they'll be too ambitious. Maybe they'll try something that doesn't work out. But I don't think it'll be like just, goofy copying the previous one. But, you'd have to be more specific because there's as to what prequel problems you're referring to, because the video I'm editing right now, I'll probably post it early for you guys tomorrow. Will be my ranking of the Hangover movies. That's a franchise where the two sequels made two classic sequel problems. First one, sequel, just copied the original one beat by beat. Second sequel just abandoned everything that people loved about the first film and did something totally different with it. Two totally different sequel problems. So you'd have to be specific for me to elaborate. Rich Reviews, well, they called it. The whole action felt like America Idol Elimination Night, with the networks being like right after this commercial break. Yeah, bit of an exciting week. Just as a precursor on this, obviously you guys have a ton of questions in here. If you guys if we want to have a conversation, I'll answer like non-divisive questions on election stuff. Anybody gets in here starts getting divisive, we're not going there at all. But we can talk non-divisive stuff. If you want to talk about in general shenanigans and everything, cool. But conspiracy theories, gloating, anything that it steps on other people's toes, I'm not interested in any of that. Just to give you a heads up. But yeah, what a week of weird stuff. Thomas Jones, what is the most recent Taco Bell movie that you have watched in terms of new movies, not most recently watched? It's tough to say because it's the year 2020. So I mean, it's a problem. 2020 it's a tough year to. I normally assign those to more blockbusters, and we haven't had those. So then, I don't like. There's a sense in which like Tremors, Shrieker Island from 2 weeks ago. It's a Netflix one, but it's like a direct-to-video schlock fest. So I don't really like to put that in the same category. It's something different when you're talking about direct-to-video creature features and stuff. Comparing that to Jurassic World is silly to me, even though they're both creature features. But they're like, when you have one has 10 times the budget of the other, I don't like to have them in the same category. So I really don't have any come to mind immediately for the year 2020. Maybe I'm just missing something. But, I loved Love and Monsters from a couple weeks back, but I wouldn't at all call that a Taco Bell film. It's so maybe I have to go back a year, and I'm sure I'm missing something because, I've seen this year alone, counting all movies, I've already seen over 400 movies this year. It's tough to remember exactly when did you see whatsy. But, Hobbs and Shaw from a year ago, that's a classic Taco Bell movie to me. It's dumb. It doesn't make a lot of sense. You can't, it's not trying to be high art. It's just trying to entertain, and it doesn't mind being stupid to do that. So, but there might have been something since then. Bryce Billy, what is your favorite horror movie reboot? Mine is 2009 Friday the 13th. Which one, much like Cody Leach, I think is my favorite Jason Friday the 13th movie. Favorite horror movie reboot. So I really enjoyed the 2009 Friday the 13th. That's actually an early movie I saw at a press screening, well before I was reviewing anything like that. Just my buddy had got public passes, and so I went to go see that. So I saw it like a week or two before it came out in theaters, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I certainly not Friday the third, not Nightmare on Elm Street, not The Evil Dead, not The Thing. Maybe I'm missing one, but of kind of this current era, Friday the 13th is the one that kind of stands out to me. Rich Reviews, any Sean Connery thoughts? Not really. Not really. Anytime you have someone like that very suddenly kind of disappears, that they're very public for 50 years. It was, I mean, he was an A-lister for 40 years, that very much in the spotlight. And the last 15 years of his career, in some way, of his as a Hollywood leading man, in some ways were some of his most successful as an actor in certain ways. I mean, obviously Bond will always be the thing he's most iconically known for, but you look at kind of the late 80s through the early zeros, that he just had a lot more variety, and he was doing side roles, lead roles, just did a lot of different stuff that was more than just one role. Where you go back to 1960s, people only talk about the Bond films, a couple things in the 70s, but he had so many great roles in the 80s and 90s. And so he was out there for so long and then just kind of disappears. Whenever that happens, you just kind of assume that there's a health issue that and if they don't say, hey, I've got cancer, I'm dying, you assume that there's probably something going on that's a little bit of a health issue where they don't want that to be their last, the way that they're remembered. They want to be remembered as the icon, not the frail humanity side to it. And so it's just kind of a reminder of our own humanity that even someone as iconic, as legendary as him, life caught up with him, and we're all frail. We're all susceptible to the world, and we only have so much time. He had 90 years, and he did a lot with his 90 years, did it, and made his mark on the world. And hopefully we can all find a way to contribute in a way that we're remembered to some extent. Dayton, hey, Sean, how do you feel about Batman Forever? Yeah, I watched it again, I don't know, a couple months back when I was thinking I was going to rank all the DC movies when Wonder Woman came out. And so, I saw it in the theater. I grew up on that era of Batman films because Batman 89 is one of the first movies I remember seeing in the theater. So Batman Forever was a huge movie for me when I was in, I guess, I was 8th grade-ish for me. And so I when it first came out, I was as big a fan of it as anybody. And then I think we all kind of, some of us that were fans of it reinterpreted after Batman and Robin, which just kind of continued down that path and went, wait a minute, what is this? And so ever since then, I haven't been as favorable to it. It's a movie that I'm pretty sure, it's pretty well known that it was kind of re-edited after they'd shot it, and there's a bunch of stuff cut out, and I think you see that when you rewatch it. And especially the more you kind of hear that maybe there was a longer, darker cut, you watch the movie and you go, oh, that makes sense because there's some pretty big gaps here. So it's interesting, but it's not one that I don't think it is aged very well in general. There's not. It's aged better than Batman and Robin. It has more merit than Batman and Robin, but it has a lot of faults. Rich Reviews, do you think AMC or Regal will survive? I don't think AMC is going to survive. They've been bleeding out since before all of this. Regal, and I don't know. I hadn't heard they were as bad, and then they decided to shut things down until movies were going to be coming out again. And I think that they're kind of in a let's lock down to stop the bleeding. Let's put the tourniquet on and let's just lay in bed and see if we can revive ourselves, survive. So I think Regal might have a chance, but I think that AMC is in dire situations. Majestic Demon, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't recall you owning Toy Story 4 on Blu-ray. I don't think I own Toy Story 4 on Blu-ray. I don't think I own that one because right around when it came out on Blu-ray, Disney Plus came out. So I think that was kind of the rationale. My family actually watched that one this past week twice. As soon as our kids watch something new, then they watch it a second time. My wife hadn't seen it before, and so and she'd been waiting. She knew I needed to rewatch it because I rewatch the Pixar movies every year the same way I watch the MCU movies every year, and we watch the DCU movies every year. And so she was holding off on waiting until I rewatched it. So we finally did that this week. So yeah, I don't own that one. It is a hole in my collection. Bryce Bailey, who's your favorite fictional movie president? Let's go with David Palmer from 24. Love the TV show 24, and it's remembered for Jack Bauer because obviously he was the driving force. So he was the star of the show. But for the first few seasons, it was co-leads. Really, there were two different lead plot lines. Actually, I mean, every season was like this. There's two plot lines kind of going on. There's the spy one with Jack, and then there's the political one. And David Palmer was the star of the political one. And so, he was great. John Puffenberger, is there any movie you didn't like when you first watched it, but now you kind of love it when you watch it? I know people ask me these questions a lot. I don't normally have good answers. They don't come to me real quick. I think that the ones that more I've experienced are I didn't fully appreciate things when I first watched them, whether because of my own immaturity, I was too young. I was just too used to, I was looking for the wrong thing when I watched something, and then I watched it again with a better mindset and appreciated it better. More things like that. So a recent example would be like John Carpenter's The Thing. I've seen it a couple of times before this last month, but it hadn't really stuck with me. And so then watching this month, I was like, oh, wow, this is a really cool film. Hey, this might be my favorite John Carpenter film, and I've been praising John Carpenter films for 20 years. So that was one. Yep, that's one. Don't want to get into politics. Nicholas, what is your favorite movie that takes place in court? A Few Good Men. A Few Good Men is my favorite courtroom film. It's got a young Tom Cruise. And the whole cast is phenomenal. It's got a bunch of actors that are still acting today when they were obviously over 25 years ago. But it's a Aaron Sorkin script. It's just great stuff. Movie that one of the early dramas that I saw. So I've always loved A Few Good Men, and it just hits all the right notes for me. Gamerman, I recently watched Batman and Robin last night. It was my favorite Batman movie as a kid. Now it is just dumb fun. Yeah, I mean, it's a movie that everybody loves to crap on, makes fun of, and it's an easy target. A lot of the criticisms are totally warranted. I think there's a side to it that I don't think people... It's not like the director was trying to make something different. Like, the director, in many ways, succeeded as what he was trying to make. He just made something that most people don't want. He was trying to make this wild, wacky, live-action Batman cartoon, and he did that. Nobody wants that, but he did it, and so I think there is fun to be had with it. Shishak, have you seen Mr. Bean, the television series? If you have, what are your thoughts on it? Yeah, I mean, I've seen an amount of Bean over the years. He had a movie in the late 90s. There's several movies, but he had one that was released in the U.S. in the late 90s with the Mona Lisa. I saw that one in the theaters. Seen a number of the episodes, and I've gotten some good laughs after Mr. Bean. I can't say it's something I regularly watch. I can't say that like one of my favorite shows or anything, but I've certainly watched an amount of Mr. Bean over the years, and a couple times tried to show little bit clips to my kids to see how they'd respond, but I don't have any deep thoughts. Bryce Bailey, are you a fan of steelbooks? I never personally understood the appeal. I much prefer the original poster artwork on a traditional Blu-ray and the information on the back. I don't have strong preferences in any direction. A lot of DVDs have just ugly cover art. In that regard, steelbooks beat them. Sometimes they just pick a random picture. It's not even the poster. It's just like, why would you pick this very boring image? I don't understand how you picked this. But I don't really have a strong opinion on any of it. I just don't think that way. I don't care that much. Like my primary concern is, does it fit neatly on my shelf? And anything that sticks up too high, that's frustrating. But that's my biggest concern. Matt G, if Amazon bought a theater chain, you think it would be different than a regular movie theater, or if a movie studio bought a theater, etc.? So I think they passed laws back in the 1940s saying that studios can't do that because it's a form of a monopoly that you create, distribute, and own the theater. That's a monopoly, and so then it leads to shady practices to where you can get yourself in create a really dangerous situation where someone controls the entire thing. Or in this case of this one, they also then control streaming, Blu-ray distribution. That's a monopoly on something, and they don't want that. So it was broken up a long time ago. I couldn't say that I'm well read enough on it to know the arguments in both sides of it, to whether that is a true monopoly, because there always is other competition, but that's just someone owning a whole long chunk of the process. So, I mean, I think if they did that, I don't think it would be dramatically different. The fear is that they would only play their own movies, since they produce movies, they create movies. That would be the fear, and that could get you in some trouble, but I don't even think that would be all that likely. Dayton, when are you planning to continue the Bond series if the film gets released in April? I don't know, 2 months out or whatever it is. It's meant to be a build up, so then it'll be put out at regular amounts of time leading up to that release. So it would be about 2 months out. That's always what it'll be, because I have the Dalton Lazenby ranking, Brosnan ranking. But I'm not going to do Daniel Craig right before a Daniel Craig movie comes out. So it's just 2 of those rankings I need to do beforehand. So that would be, if I do them 1 per month, then it would be 2 months out. I might move it a little bit closer than that, so maybe 6 weeks out. Something's about 3 weeks, something like that. Rich reviews, I lost 10 pounds due to stress of the election. Yeah, I keep telling you, I'd get off social media. There's things to be worried about, and then there's, not that it doesn't matter, it absolutely does. There's a lot of checks and balances. There's a lot of checks and balances. Derek Pedersen, I've only have 2 Scorsese movies left. Very cool. That means you're ahead of me. Majestic Demon, does your DreamWorks video drop this month? That's the plan. That's the plan, is that it would drop. I mean, it's like, this is the thought. When does the next DreamWorks movie come out that would be the opportunity to do it? I'm not going to watch 38 movies and just randomly drop it and then have it get 5,000 views and then I'm depressed and quit my YouTube channel. I'm going to try and sync that up with when there's a new release, so there's some momentum. But the movie's The Croods too. I don't know that there's a lot of momentum for that. That's the problem. That's what I'm always thinking. What's the scenario that makes it worthwhile to do this very large video? And I don't know. It's incredibly frustrating when people are like, "Hey, you did this. Why haven't you done this?" Well, I did this because it lined up with that. I have to have a that for this thing over here. And that it's a lot of work to watch 38 movies and write my thoughts on them and then rank them. To shoot a video like that, just to do that video, I have to download 38 posters, 38 movie trailers. Then I have to place 38 movie posters, chop up 38 movie posters into little clips to put them in the video. Then I have to shoot that. To shoot my 31 on 31, it was a 3-hour shoot. This is a little bit longer than that, so this is like a 3.5-hour shoot. And then I have to edit that. That's very exhausting. And if you do that at a point in time where people aren't looking to talk DreamWorks movies, then the video's a bust and nobody watches it. If you haven't spent months watching movies and exhausting yourself shooting for 4 hours straight and then edited for 12 hours straight to get a video out and then nobody clicks on it, it's tough to know just how discouraging that really is. What is the last movie you have seen? Let's see, yesterday. I didn't watch any movies yesterday, did I? I guess it would be Thursday night we went to go see... Oh, no, actually, that's stupid. Yeah, I watched... late at night, I watched Big Daddy, the Adam Sandler movie last night. And then started Mr. Deeds and fell asleep 30 minutes into it. Dave Madison, I rewatched Goodfellas last night, and now there are 3 Mafia movies in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. Very cool, very cool. Rich Reviews. Man, you are really into the election. The last several elections, only 08 and 12 were called before 11 p.m. Eastern Time. Yep. That's... Well, I guess of the last few, that's to say that the last two, this one and the previous one, were counted late. But, yeah, it's... Yeah. Menace Ninja, have you watched the Gotham TV series? If you go on my channel, I have reviews of episodes of the Gotham series going back to when it first debuted years ago. Even before I had my channel, before it was Sean Chandler Talks About it, I have reviews. So I have reviews on it, so obviously I've seen some of it. I haven't finished it. I've seen, there's like 5 seasons. I've seen 3.5 seasons. There's like a season and a half I need to watch. But it's been long enough that to watch those, I'd need to start over from the beginning, so yeah. Gal, what do you think about the Assassin's Creed Resident Evil as a Netflix TV series? It seems like Netflix are trying more video game franchises after the success of The Witcher. Yeah, it does appear that way. So I'm not a fan of any of these three video game franchises. They're not ones that I play. So I can't give too much deeper insight on into them. I bought the first Assassin's Creed game when it came out, and I just didn't dig the whole basic concept of it, of this machine and genetic memory and stuff like that. I just never could get into it because of the plot didn't work for me really. There are elements that were kind of cool, but I just never got connected with the story. And then with Resident Evil, I've tried a couple of games throughout the years. None of the recent ones, so maybe a recent one would change this. But I just didn't like the nature of the gameplay and the way it kind of worked. It wasn't. I'd want something a little bit more action based and less. Maybe it could be like I said, not one that I've spent a ton of time with, not one I connected with, but less of the kind of stealthy type stuff. And then I'm just The Witcher, which is not on my radar. I actually bought it after finishing season one, but I haven't put much time into it. Just a little bit to get a tease at the beginning of it. Anyway, that's my background on that. So what I think about them doing that. I mean, I think a lot of video games are inherently a little bit episodic because it's levels. And so I think there's a side to that that might lend itself well to television more so than film. Film, and you're trying to tell this one story, and you have video games that have these episodic, very long stories that different levels, and perhaps that's a better environment for it. We'll see. The Witcher's a little bit different because it's based off books too, so there's a lot of things there to pull from, whereas the other two are just the original subject is a video game. Bryce, where's your favorite place to go and buy Blu-rays from? Best Buy and Amazon. I don't have an interesting answer. Shashank just completed my exams yesterday. Saw Jaws, Jurassic Park. Both films hold up so well. Feels so fresh. Yep. Absolutely great films. Majestic Demon, I can't decide if I should watch 300 or Gladiator for the first time after the live scene. Which one would you recommend? If you want something more stylized, go with 300. If you want something a little bit more of a traditional epic, but with 21st century aesthetics, go with Gladiator. Both are great films. 300 is much more visceral. It's much more. It's Zack Snyder at his finest. It's a film designed for what Zack Snyder is very good at, which is machismo, great visuals, just testosterone-filled, fantastic action, incredibly stylized. Gladiator's a much more complex film with more layers to it. I would say 300 is a little bit more digestible because it is just kind of like this, macho dudes going to battle a million Persians and fighting monsters and stuff on the edge of a cliff. I mean, it's kind of that. Whereas Gladiator, it's more when you have to sit down, really watch, and be in the mood for it. So I wouldn't tell you which one I prefer. That depends entirely on what you're in the mood for. If you want, yeah. Dayton Radunsky, how do you feel on South Park? I've actually only ever seen one episode of South Park in its entirety. It was the one with Christopher Reeves, and he looks like Captain Pike in his wheelchair from the episode The Menagerie of Star Trek. And he's trying to steal people's spines to suck out their stem cells. That's the only episode of South Park I've ever seen. I thought it was hilarious, incredibly clever, witty, offensive. It was all the different things it was supposed to be and South Park is known for. But I've only seen the one episode. Rich Reviews. I think I reviewed 43 films, 18 documentaries, which I think is a good set of films to watch. Cool. Thomas Jones, not sure if you've done this video already, so I apologize if so, but have you ever thought about doing your top 10 or 20 favorite TV show characters? Some people recommended it after my top characters from movies. TV shows are a lot more niche. It's a much more difficult list to be interesting to other people. We've all seen the same movies, but we all watch different TV shows. So, especially on like my stuff, I tend to like big mainstream things. So people watch my list of favorite movies. And even if you haven't seen a movie to know a specific character, you're aware of the franchise. You go, oh, wow, the character's great. Now I might want to check that one out. Rocky Balboa is an iconic character. Ripley, iconic character. But you start going into TV shows and they start getting more and more niche. And it's a little bit more difficult. They're all more timely. So I don't know if it would work the same. I'm open to it. If we go long enough without new releases, I'm sure it'll happen. But it's not one that I immediately are rushing out to do. Gamerman, despite Batman and Robin having many problems, I think that the CGI VFX in this movie doesn't look bad. It holds up. Yeah, and some of that's it's going for a cartoonish look. So if you have something that's designed to it's not trying to look real. Therefore, you can get away with a lot of things because it looks true to the movie they're making. It looks true to the world they're creating. And I think that's a very important thing. Dave Patterson, how did you feel about the new episode of The Mandalorian? I liked it, but I kind of felt nothing was happening for most of the runtime. I mean, I have a review. I posted a review on my channel yesterday of it. So, you can have my whole thoughts over there. I thought it's probably the worst episode of the show thus far. I mean, I didn't hate it or anything. It's still enjoyable enough as The Mandalorian. But it's kind of the definition of filler. It doesn't add to the big story, and it's also not like a particularly compelling standalone story. It's not that I'm not there's several episodes that are standalone stories that don't really add to the big picture plot line, but they're interesting in and of themselves. This is like he's playing taxi and has complications while trying to drive somewhere. It's the equivalent of the plot of the episode is the equivalent of he's playing Uber driver. The police put their sirens on behind him. He turns down a road and gets a flat tire. And then he wants to get out of there as quickly as possible. Like that. It's just not very interesting. So, but I have a full review on my channel. Majestic Demon, my local movie theater's playing the original Toy Story. I think I might just see the experience. Yeah, mine's playing it too. So, I'm always constantly looking at what the old movies are playing to see what I can take my kids to. And what old movies that I haven't seen in the theater in 30 years, 25 years, maybe never, on the case of some of these ones, are worth checking out. Bryce Bailey, if you could become the main character in any movie and act through the course of the film they start in, what would you choose? I always fascinated by being in an action movie. Like I remember going back about 19 years ago seeing The Matrix Revisited. It was like a full documentary official release about The Matrix, behind the scenes stuff. And they had all these stuff about the martial arts training that Keanu Reeves and the rest of the crew were going through, and all the wire work they were doing and the guns training they were doing. And then you look at all the current superheroes where they hit the gym and they spend 6 months getting to, they spend their morning in the gym lifting weights, and they spend their afternoon training with swords and in martial arts. And I've always thought that would be the coolest thing ever. I don't have a specific movie. I'd be very open to any number of movies that would give me the opportunity to spend 6 months training to look awesome on screen and then film myself being awesome on screen. Landon, great video last week. Leonardo DiCaprio starred in Critters 3. Yep. He's not the lead, though. He's a side character, but yeah, he's very prominent throughout the movie. It's amazing. Dayton, with your A+ score, what would be on a scale of 1 to 10? I'm not really sure what you're asking. I have two different scores that represent two different things. An A+ is a perfect score. That's the highest score, so that would be a 10. If you're converting it to something else, an A+ is the highest you can get. So by definition, that would be a 10, assuming a 10 is what you're converting it to. But I'm not really sure what you're asking because I'm not sure why there would be a lack of clarity. The A+ is the one that's easiest to translate because it's just the top. It's when you're like, what's a B+ translate to on a 1 through 10? Well, there's not really an exact science to that. And no matter what you say, someone will argue with you about it. John Sutherland, I'm trying to get my boy into Star Wars. Do you think I should go chronologically and start with Episode 1 or the way we saw as a child starting with A New Hope? Depends on his threshold for old stuff. If he's never watched old stuff before, A New Hope is a pretty big ask for someone. It's over 40 years old. There are stretches that are pretty slow by today's standards. So, and then likewise, if he's young enough, that Episode 1, 2, those movies are great for current day 6-year-olds because they just love CGI animals. Those movies are filled with CGI characters. My son loves Attack of the Clones because it's filled with CGI, the clone troopers. Anybody with a helmet, a jetpack, he loves that stuff. So it kind of depends on their threshold. If possible, I would start with 4 because that's the way the story's meant to be told. And you can actually have a little bit of a moment of Empire Strikes Back moment of tracking with as they put it all together. But it really depends on the person. Adam Gunther, where would Salinger and Trish from Jessica Jones season 3 fall into your list of favorite Marvel Netflix villains? I watched that 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, whenever it aired. I couldn't say off the top of my head. I don't have that list of characters like doing when I do a ranking. I mean, I sit there and really think through a lot of different things in the arc and their history and everything. And a TV show villain rankings in particular, you're talking about those Marvel Netflix shows. It's over 10 seasons, 10 episodes each. It's 100 episodes to consider, so I couldn't even begin to off the top of my head place them. Like I could not do that at all. I would have to pull out and I couldn't. I don't even know where to start. Dayton, I know you don't like to pick favorites, so what would be your go-to mob film? Untouchables. I mean, you're trying to trick me into giving an answer, so I'm not going to fall for the trick, but Untouchables is, since I've been asked the question many times, Untouchables is my favorite mob film. Kevin Costner, Sean Connery, many, many more. David Patterson, favorite, least favorite scene in any Tarantino movie? I don't have it's a favorite question. I certainly couldn't off the top of my head pick favorite moments like that. Certainly, or least favorite. Like, I don't know if there'd be a scene that would pop out as just probably something from Death Proof, because I just think by far it's Tarantino's least interesting film to me. And just there's dull stuff that wouldn't appeal to me at all. But I wouldn't, picking my favorite scene off the top of my head was not something I'd be able to do. Gamerman, would you like to see Justin Hammer return to the MCU? Yes. Yeah, I would be totally game for that. Him and Abomination, a lot of these guys that are still out there. You have a vacuum in the absence of Tony Stark. There's some interesting things you can do with that. Finally did see the Dune trailer in the theater, visually impressive. However, to me, everything around Timothée Chalamet was more interesting than Chalamet himself. So I haven't... I haven't read the book. I haven't seen the previous version, so I don't know too much about it. So I don't even know how to interpret what I'm seeing, especially even I don't know how to interpret what people have told me. It's not like Star Wars. It's political, and then you watch the trailer and there's a bunch of action, and people are like, but it's not an action. People don't get too hyped for that. Like, okay, so what is it? Yo, PlayStation disc or digital edition? I don't know. I don't have one, so whatever one I can get is the one that I'm interested in. I'd probably be interested in a disc because I'm old. Rich Reviews, I think they announced that Lashana Lynch has been cast in 007. Yeah, I mean, we've all known that. They've known that for a year. It hasn't really been a secret. The trailers didn't even try and keep that a secret. Pretty clearly, she's taken the name, the title, the call sign, whatever, 007 in the film. That seemed to be pretty clear. She just confirmed it in an interview. So, and I think for a lot of people, it also just kind of, it's a government agent, and it's just if he's retired, why wouldn't, it doesn't matter who took the spot. So I think once it's confirmed that all that means is that it doesn't mean anything. I think that's kind of basically my takeaway, is that from it doesn't have as much weight as some people on the internet want things to be more important than they actually are. Nicholas, so I just saw Dr. Sleep, and my movie relies on flashbacks. And the movie relies on flashbacks, and I don't think they got the right actor to play Jack, Danny, etc. For that reason, I thought The Shining was better. You thought that Ewan McGregor did a bad job in that one? The part about Jack, I think they were just in a tricky situation. There's not really a good situation for what you should do on that. I would entirely dislike the flashbacks in that movie. Are the least memorable thing in that film for me. Everything else was more compelling. So, I totally get it. Someone likes The Shining more. I'm certainly not going to argue that point with you. It's a 40-year-old classic film that's been beloved by people for a very long time. So I wouldn't argue the point if you like The Shining more. But if your reasoning is that Ewan McGregor did a bad job in the movie, I'm not tracking with that one at all, the specific reasoning. David Patterson, the tomato meter has been revealed for Mank. I know you don't like knowing tomatoes before you see the movie, but it's looking good. It's a David Fincher film, so I wouldn't be terribly surprised that the numbers are good. But yes, you're correct. I don't normally like to know since I already know more than I'd like to know going in. Anytime I can withhold something that sways my impression of it, the better. Rich Reviews, have you seen the Monster Hunter trailer? Nope, don't really even know what it is. John Sutherland just watched 2005 Best Picture winner Crash for the first time in 10 years. Was moved by it originally. Now that I'm older and given our political climate, it felt too preachy. Thoughts? I've actually never seen it, and I've only heard bad things about it. There's a pretty good chance that probably at the next Oscars I'll do some sort of 20th Century Oscar Best Picture winners ranking. So it'd be 20 movies, I guess, out there, 21 movies, whatever it would be. So yeah, I'll give it a shot. But that's what I've heard. It's preachy and the message is problematic based off of what we've learned over the last 15 years. Nicholas, what are some of your least favorite Netflix originals? I don't have a list like that. There's just so many that are garbage that, my wife does podcasts with some of my YouTube friends from time to time, so I'll see little glimpses of some of these Netflix romances, but they're not targeting me. Some other people could watch some of the action movies that I'd say they're no good, but I don't really have a list like that. Anytime you throw the word favorite into it, I really don't actually have lists like that come to mind. And least favorites in particular, if it's bad, I just stop watching it, especially with Netflix original, or I'm not going to spend a lot of time on those. So then it just feels a little bit like punching down. I'm just not interested in too much of that. Rich Reviews, who would you cast in a Fleetwood Mac biopic? I don't know enough about Fleetwood Mac to be able to start casting something like that. I wouldn't. I don't have too many thoughts on it. Gamerman, I watched Silence of the Lambs last week, despite this being the movie Hannibal Lecter is known for, but I feel like he had a big role in the movie. I thought he was the main antagonist. I watched Silence of the Lambs last week, despite this being the movie Hannibal Lecter is known for, but I feel like he had a big role in the movie. I thought he was the main antagonist. I'm not really sure what you're saying. I think you left out a word, but he's not the main antagonist. It's not. That's not at all his role in most of these movies. He's not actually the main antagonist. He's an advisor. That's what the character is interesting and known for, is that he's this brilliant guy that helps the FBI agent that's investigating the killer of the film. He's not normally the actual main antagonist. Landon, have a good week. Sean, excited for what you come up with towards the end of the year. I appreciate it. Shashank, Sean, knowing you are a big Breaking Bad fan, would you recommend to watch Better Call Saul? Would you love to hear your thoughts on the show? I mean, I haven't seen Better Call Saul, so I just haven't watched it yet. So I can't recommend it or not recommend it because I haven't seen it. Menace Ninja, you should make a gaming channel where you live stream games. I mean, I've posted gaming videos on my second channel I already have, but I don't have extra time to play games. I don't play all that many games. It's not like I am playing a bunch of games that I could be making content out of that. I just don't play a lot of video games. I don't have time to make more videos. It takes me a lot of time to do what I currently do, and most importantly, to watch all the movies, to do all my rankings takes a lot of time, and because of that, there's just not it's not really on the table to me to have another channel to create gaming stuff. Nicholas, what are some of your favorites? Some movies that you think are better. What are some movies you think are better in theaters? I mean, any movie that's either a big spectacle film. There's a couple of different things There's two different things about it. Movies that are designed to be seen on the big screen with a great sound system. So spectacle films and movies that are shot to be visually stunning.
of course, you want to see those on the biggest screen possible. So some movies that are period pieces, they're just designed to have big sweeping images, gorgeous images, or blockbusters that are designed to have big special effects that look awesome with on a big screen. The other side to it is that emotions are contagious, and so like comedies play a lot better with a crowd of people around you that are laughing. You will laugh a lot more out loud if other people are laughing. Likewise, you'll be jittery in a thriller a lot more, or a scary movie, if there's other people around you. And likewise, if you have a movie like Endgame, there's a dramatic difference between watching Endgame for the first time in a theater opening night versus watching it for the first time a year later after you've, by yourself.